really realize that realize how traumatic is in itself, how traumatic the journey of faith is in itself. And it's one of the things that people don't talk. People talk about the spoils that comes from trusting God, but nobody really just sits and talks about like how a lot of times the journey of faith puts you in a position where it almost feels like you're more broken than healed, where it almost seems like you've fallen so far away from who you knew yourself to be that it's like you look in the mirror and you see like a shell of the person. And honestly, those things take so much time. And sometimes, the journey of faith will put you in a position where you are so traumatized that you are struggling to follow God. You can hear his voice, and it's just like, God, all I can think about was the last few times, like, you told me to do something, like it went horrible. And you start thinking about the trauma of like what is so traumatic is that we do things, we follow God. And a lot of times when the storm hits, when he leads us into a test, when he leads us into a storm, it almost feels like I'm doing all of this. It's like I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting not to drown. And it's like, that you barely make it. And it gets to a point where it's literally like, Lord, if I follow you, is it going to be this? And so sometimes that turns into reluctancy to follow God, where it's like you will sift the instructions of God with a fine tooth comb. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It's almost like you will kind of just like, you hear God, but it's kind of like, let me kind of just decide if this is the route that I'm gonna go. Let me just like figure out if this is what I'm going to do. And so recovery in moments following traumatic seasons. And I'm gonna say this: sometimes your recovery doesn't come right after the storm. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 seasons, and then God is like, okay, now let you recover from this. And a lot of times recovery, it is a form of healing. But in order to recover, you have to rest. Woo. Think about it. When an athlete injures themselves, right? Like, what do? You don't see them out on the court. You don't see them out on the field. You see them on the sidelines. You see them resting. You see them not putting pressure. Let's just say an athlete, twist their ankle. You're going to see them like not putting pressure on that foot. You're gonna see them resting, elevating, putting themselves. Rest puts you in the optimal position to be healed. Ooh. I don't know why this thing ain't let me click off of it. I'm gonna say it again. Rest puts you in the optimal position to be healed. So it's like the journey of faith. It is, I'm getting there. Stick with me. She has chosen, stick with me. Rest puts you in the optimal position to be blessed. And so a lot of times, right, y'all, I'm getting there. I promise y'all I'm getting there. Golly, let me get there. Not y'all are tapped in that, listen, that much that y'all like, get to the point. See, I'm trying, y'all. God, somebody post a little meme. Golly, God dog. Ooh wee. Oh, why y'all play so much? Please let me get it. I'm getting, I promise y'all I'm getting there. I ain't gonna take y'all all around the world. I gotta just laugh. I gotta just, Bo, no. Listen. Listen. I'm like, Lord, I ain't never seen a group of people just like get to the meat. Give us what we need. Bo, please get down. All they hear is your little tail just a wagging. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Tell them hey and tell them goodbye. Say hello, y'all. Didn't nobody come here to see you now. You've been chilling all week. Say hey, y'all. Tell them hey, pumpkin. Tell them hey, poo poo. Tell them hey. Miss Latanya, and he go the other. Come here, Capone. You want to go for a ride, Capone? Just come on. You get your time too. Want to go for a ride? Oh, some goodness, pumpkin. Oh, some goodness. They don't ever get to see my old boy. They don't get to see a big boy. They don't. They don't get to see no big boy. Chunky man. Hey, pom pom. Hey, pom pom. Child, when I say they ride, hey, away from me with all they playing. Love you. But hey Bree, you right on time. You are right on time. Listen, I'm not ready to show y'all my head. Don't be asking me no more. I ain't show nobody. I ain't gonna show y'all till I'm ready. I ain't gonna show y'all till I'm ready. I told it don't look bad though. It's growing on me actually. But I said, I ain't ready. I ain't quite ready. I ain't there yet. I am not there yet. But clearly y'all been ready today. Goodness, good grief. Good grief. Good grief. You're not late. You all right on time. Listen, they gonna be swimming. Okay, can we stay focused? I needed the laugh, so I'm not even gonna lie. The past few days have been kind of heavy for me. They really have been. But we were talking about like how recovery is needed, like in order to heal. And so a lot of times we don't get our recovery right after the storm, right after like a tough season. Sometimes it takes seasons, plural, just for us faith wise to be in a position where we even feel like we can sit down or sit still in that area to let God deal with it. I'm gonna say this: stillness is required for recovery. And a lot of times when you think about it, you be so traumatized that your mindset is go, 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 go. Like that is, you get what I'm saying? A lot of times that's your mindset. And so God has to wait until we are intrinsically at a point to where we feel like, okay, I'm ready for change in this area. Like I'm ready for growth. Like I'm ready to deal with this. I'm ready. I'm fed up with running on fumes. I'm ready. And so sometimes it takes seasons. Stillness is required for recovery. But when you think about when we're operating from a place of trauma, which is fear, fear makes us wound up. It's the opposite of stillness. It makes you want to run. And a lot of times I feel like we can't recover because we start to run from God. Whew. Both stop. A lot of times we can't recover because we get in the habit of running from God. And the reason why we run from God is because we start to associate following God or letting God or letting God deal with us in certain ways. We start to equate God dealing with us in those ways to, I'm finna go through something else. And it's like the more we run, the more we start to feel like I'm barely making it. Like I'm still like feeling like my head is above water. And so a lot of times God will let us like burn our wheels until we get to that point where we're like, I just don't even have the energy to run. Like that was me. I didn't even realize that was me. I felt like I'm running on such great fumes that like I don't even have the energy to even put one foot in front of the other. I feel like my aunt's death was just like it was the breaking point. It was like a breaking point for me where it's like I just cannot do it anymore. I cannot run. I can't eat. I can barely move. And I feel like in that moment where God sees us at that point to where he takes full advantage of those moments. And so what happens a lot of times when we begin to rest, it's not something that you have to do to get to a point to where you're ready to recover. It is God's timing. It is a heart space. Sometimes our mind and our mouths can say, God, I'm ready to recover. I'm ready for healing. But in our hearts, like a lot of times our hearts are still like they barely put together. Like sometimes the things that we go through in life, it doesn't just break our hearts, but it shatters our hearts into a million pieces. And as long as we're running, it's kind of like what was the name of that movie, Lord? I want to say it was Pinocchio, like the cartoon, like the old school cartoon, like not the not the updated cartoon movie, but it was Pinocchio. There was a point where I want to say like his face or something was broken, and they were putting it like, so a lot of times we're walking around and you can still see the cracks in our heart because our heart is still very shattered. And I'm gonna say this: when you're walking around with a heart that is shattered from life in itself, you are it. You're vulnerable. Like you're in that place where it's literally like anything could break you. It's a delicate position to be in. Can we reach our live goal? Can we do that today? Like it's a real delicate thing, and so a lot of times, we'll see a breakthrough, we'll see the blessing, but like our heart is still shattered and we feel like, God, even though I see you doing good things in my life, like I still feel like I am on edge. It feels like I'm still about to break. And the reason why we feel like we're still about to break is because we've been running from the only thing that can heal our heart and make it good as new. So like it's safe to say that God waits until we are ready. He waits until our hearts are not so delicate to where he can actually deal with us. I believe, like after traumatic seasons, God knows that our hearts literally cannot take anything too hard, anything that requires an immense amount of energy, anything that requires a fight, anything that requires a tussle. So that form of rest in those seasons after a battle are extremely different from from you resting and recovering. And so it's like, God knows that like space sometimes times it's kind of like when you grieving, when you losing somebody, you still be sad, but it's like it gets to a point after a certain amount of time that like you can still be sad, you can still miss them, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Does that make sense? I feel like sometimes life and the things, life scars are sometimes like that, where God knows, like, if I leave this area alone for a little bit, eventually you will get to a point to where your heart can handle me touching it. So that's why, like, sometimes, especially after great battles, like God really don't deal with you a lot in that area. He'll start to move and deal with you in other areas of your life. And then it's like, you reach to a certain level and enough time goes by. And then it's like you look up and it's like months or even a year or even years has gone by. Now God is back dealing with you about that thing that he left alone. Because God understands that time heals wounds. My God. Time heals wounds. Whew. I'm going to say it again. Even God knows time heals wounds. He does know that. Like time heals wounds. Think about it. You hurt yourself, and let's just say it's a sore, right? What do you do? You're not gonna keep picking at it. You're gonna disinfect it. You're gonna put some little ointment on it, depending on the kind of wound it is. You may put a band-aid on it for a little bit of time. And you're going to leave it alone because you understand that if I leave this thing alone, then what? Come on, the skin that was broken, come on, it will it'll form a scar and my skin will begin to regenerate. Sometimes life is that same exact way where we go through things and sometimes we don't even realize or even admit that some of the hard things that we've been through and had to like go through in life, like they have broken our spirits, broken our hearts. That wilderness season, it broke me. This thing with my aunt, it shattered my heart. And it's like, I'm gonna say it like this: healing also can't be done if you refuse to admit that something has broken you. So some of us, even though we're still able to function, it's like we just totally omit something really hurt us, and we just channel it into, I still gotta keep showing up, I still gotta keep doing this, I still gotta. It takes a long time sometimes. I used to not admit feeling broken by things or hurt by things because I used to feel like it would break me more. How many likes do we have, since I can't see them today? Can we get to 10,000? Thank y'all so much. Can I get 5 more people to share this out? So sometimes God has to give certain areas that have broken our heart. And I'm going to say this: even though we don't admit it, God sees it. Ooh, wee. Even though we don't admit it, God sees it. And He deals with us accordingly, which is why a lot of times we get the breakthrough and it's like God just lets you be in that area, and He start working in other areas. And once enough time has gone by and your heart has somewhat gotten to the point to where God can deal with you, you know what He does? He says, now let's deal with this. Let's deal with this brokenness now. Let's deal with this brokenness now, and let me show you that follow. Because a lot of times what happens is, along the way, you stick with God long enough, walk by faith long enough, you start to feel like choosing God means that you get broken. Shoo. A lot of times, like, you start looking at God like, you are breaking me. You keep leading me to go through things that break me. And what it does is it makes us not want to follow Him. But in those moments where God sees it, okay, your heart is it's put together enough for me to touch it now. And a lot of times what that looks like when God begins to touch our heart is everything in that area starts to sit still. It starts to stand still. Progress will slow up. He may stop certain things, stop the flow. It's like the flow of life that was flowing to that area, it stops. And it stops so that God can, it's almost like He boxes us in. Everything stops so that we can, it ain't even really being put on the potter's wheel, but in a way it is. So that He can touch what has been broken. And it hurts. I'm gonna need you to stop. I know this broadcast Stop unloading in the chat. I'm gonna just say it like that. Everybody on here is going through something, and if you're busy unloading, then what it also means is that you're not really hearing what's being poured out. So I want you to resist the urge to do that. I'm not going to mute you. I'm not going to block you. I'm not going to do any of that. But I'm just going to ask you to stop doing that and just listen. And a lot of times I can use that for an example. A lot of times that is exactly what we do to God. God wants to touch the area that's been broken. And what do? We start pointing out all the things that we've gone through that has hurt us. I've done it too. I've done it too. I'm not answering questions right now. She knew what I meant, and that's all that matters. A lot of times it's what we do to God. God is like, come into the deep. And all our mindset can think of, but God, the last time I did this, that happened, this happened, that happened. And so it's like he begins to craft things up in that season in a way that puts us in a place to where we have no choice but to sit still. And so that poses this question, because there are some of y'all that you're dealing with what you think. If that's you, just say that's me. It's a peace that's here. There is a peace that is here. And I'm gonna say this: a lot of times we equate stagnancy to it being the devil. Is it the devil or is it God? Is it God sitting you down and putting you in a place to where like you actually let him heal you, the thing in you that's broken, the thing that come on that you've been running away from feeling? It's kind of like a person that has to go to the doctor. Now I was a kid that whenever I went to the doctor, like one thing that I despised was I despised like them taking blood. Like, no, you got one chance and you're not gonna use no big needle. I got rolling veins, so if it's one stick, that's it. But like it was me, and I had a younger cousin. And my younger cousin, my oldest cousin, she worked in the clinic. She wasn't our doctor, but she worked there. And my youngest cousin, like I hated shots too, but I would let them, I would just make it known, you got one chance, and if you don't get it, tough luck. Because you ain't sticking me again. Like that was my how, even as a kid, when I used to, you got one chance, and if you don't get it, I don't know what to tell you, baby. But my cousin, like, she turned into a football star, track star, whatever you want to call it. Like, she would jump over like this, like I'm not lying. Like, she was running, she was causing hell back there. I kid y'all not. Hey, Jazz, she was causing hell. And so what they would have to do, like they would have to chase her and catch her. And then you know what they would have to do? They would have to hold her down so that they could do what needed to be done. And I'm bringing this up. It's funny, but do you not know that we do that same thing? We turn into track stars, football stars, basketball stars. We dipping and dodging, especially pain, trauma, the things that hurt us, going through it again. Like we are the queens and kings of just maneuvering out of things. And so when it's time for God to actually heal certain parts of our heart, he has to slow things down around us, because everything around us is an object at that point to which we can turn to and run to. Whoo. Everything is something that we can run to. Some of y'all, I'm explaining exactly where you are. And so to us, because we've gotten in the habit of running, we're trying to run and God ain't letting us. So we looking at God and we like, hey, I'm stuck. Why my seeds not working? Why my faith not working? Why these prophetic words not materializing in my life? Why this? Why that? Like, we live it. We calling people all kind of false prophets, false teachers. We listen, we pissed because we so used to running. Hey, Kaniva. I mean, we are pissed because we are so used to running, and we the devil of this, we binding all kinds of demons, and the devil looking at us like a deer in headlights. This is the greatest analogy that I can give. So y'all know where I live, right? And I have a big yard. So a lot of times Bo blends in with the fence. So he's so little that like sometimes we be out there and I don't laugh at me. But I be calling him, everybody else at the front door. I'm Bo, Bo, Bo. And then I look up and Bo be looking at me like, is you crazy? Like Bo be looking at me like, are you crazy? Like I'm right here in your face. Like, what is wrong with you? Why is you hollering? And so, like, we do the same thing with God, right? Them demons, when we bind in the devil, when we, come on, when we bind in the devil, when we doing all this, them demons be looking like, are you stupid? Are you cool? We ain't even bothering you. And you like, God, why my prayers not working? I'm decreeing and declaring, I'm doing this, why it ain't working? And them demons just like, this fool right here. When I was in my wilderness, I feel, oh, you couldn't have told me it wasn't the devil, baby. Oh, you could not have told me. Now, granted, the devil was doing stuff, but he was not the reason why I was stuck. God had me in a place to where I could not run. And he had shut off life to everything that I could run to. He had burned the bridge to every direction I could run to. Like he was doing that. And in that season, it was just like I was mad. I didn't understand why I was struggling the way that I was struggling. And when I came out of that season, and it even correlates to where I am now, God told me, he said the only way that I could get you to grow was to box you in. Whew. I'm going to say it again. He said the only way that I could get you to grow, the only way, hey, Alyssa, the only way that I could get you to like the next level was I had to do it. I had to do it. And he said, if I would have let you go prematurely, you would have never returned to this path. You would have never come back to me. You thought that things were being delayed, but really I was protecting you, come on, from choosing to live a life without me in it. Because a lot of times that's what we don't understand, is that if we run, that is us essentially saying, I want a life without God. That's essentially what's happening. It's us saying, I just don't want to do it. And a lot of times in our heads, it's just, we feel like, well, God, I'm just telling you, I don't want the promise. But really, it's a package deal. To not want the promised blessings to you, it also means that you don't want God. So a lot of times God knows, right? Because that the refining is an uncomfortable thing. He knows that if I let you out, it's over with. It is, listen, it's over with. I'm not going to ever be able to get you in this position ever again. So when he sees an ounce of willingness in us to choose him, he takes full advantage of it. So going back to rest and recovery, sometimes God knows that some of the things we go through, they are hurtful, they are traumatic, they are heart-wrenching, they shatter our hearts. And so he'll release a blessing and he will give us time to get to a place to where we can handle him touching that area again. And so in the meantime, he lets us, he deals with us in other areas. And then where when we get to a place where our hearts can handle it, God does what he does best. He says, okay, I see an ounce of willingness in you. You're tired of a cycle. You're showing signs that you're ready for me to touch this area again. So what he does is he takes full advantage of it. So in seasons like that, we'll see God shut some doors. We'll see some key relationships, separate from us. We will see God just like totally. It seems like he wrecking our life, tearing our life up. And it's like no matter what you do, no matter what you speak, no matter what you sow, no matter how you maneuver, it's just like nothing is enough to create movement. But the Lord told me today, he says, did it ever dawn on you that when you're stuck, it's not your job to create momentum? he says, y'all are busy, meaning us. Y'all are busy trying to create a momentum to move forward. But did it ever dawn on you in this season that stuck is where I need you to be? Because being stuck equals, we view it as being stuck, but God views it as you being still gives me a chance to heal this. And it gives you a chance to make a full recovery. And what a lot of times we don't realize is that it's temporary. We be focused on what I gotta do to get this, because we're ready. We are so ready to just get there. We just ready to just get there already. And God is like, there is nothing that you need to do, but just let me do what I do. And the reason why we're trying to help God out is because stillness makes us aware of what we're afraid of. Stillness makes us aware of what we are afraid of. And when we start seeing what we're afraid of, we start to view everything that God is doing as he's leading me to my demise. He's trying to mess me up. And so what do you do when you start getting scared? We start fighting back. And we start looking for an opening. Let's just say if God has you still in the area of like a job, right? And let's just say maybe he has you in a place where he's healing something, right? Moderators just block, where he's healing something in you that's connected to work. You may experience God, letting you apply for jobs and you ain't getting not a lick of interviews. And if you do get an interview, it's like you don't get a call back. And a lot of times running from God in that area, you start thinking like, what about my bills? What about this? What about that? You start viewing all these other things. What about all these things that I gotta, that I have that I gotta pay? What about my responsibilities? And the more you freak out, the more you look for like ways out. Let me see if I can get a loan. Let me see if somebody can borrow this. Somebody can let me borrow this. Let me see if I can go this route. Let me see if I can go that route. Like you start like trying to find whatever way you can find. And every single time you try, it's like God stamps a hard no on it. No, no, no. And a lot of times what happens next is we get depressed. We get depressed because we feel like we're going to, like God is going to fail us. We get depressed because we feel like nothing that I'm doing is, oh, okay. Y'all ain't got to talk back to me. Can we reach that live goal? I think we need 20, 22, 22. Is that 22? I don't know what the number is. I think it's like 20. Yeah, 22. 22 roses. We do. We get depressed because what we're doing is not creating. It's because it's like an unknown temper tantrum where we're throwing a temper tantrum and we don't view it as a temper tantrum. We just view it as God. I'm just extremely tired. Like why it ain't working. And really, what it is it's us. It's that fear, the thing that's broken within us, saying, "I don't want to be touched. Let me remain broken." And I'm gonna say this: if you get into a place where you remain broken, your life will remain the same. Whew. Your life remains the same. In order for us to heal, certain things just have to happen. We have to go through certain things. We have to be uncomfortable. But the reality of it is even the discomfort is something that is temporary. And a lot of times, if you give God time, right? What you start to see is that not only do you not repeat the same cycle, but then if you give God time, what you start seeing is, okay, I got a different response. I remember when I was homeless and sleeping out of my car. like having to take showers at the gym, and I could go on and on and on about that season. But I remember, like, when I first got the opportunity to get out of that season, this was like I had started to, seek God, but I wasn't like real firm in that walk just yet. But I remember, you know, talking to I remember, standing outside of getting the opportunity to get out of that situation, getting in, getting into a school program that would pay for me, pay for school. Like, it was a good setup. And I remember the day I got accepted into that program, the same day I had the interview was the same day that I got told yes. And I remember standing outside that school saying, I'm never going to go through this again. I am never going to be put in this position ever again. And for the next few years, I moved in a way that allowed for me to avoid that type of setback. I moved in a way that allowed for me to avoid that kind of setback. I'm not lying to y'all. I did. And I remember, like, the moment I gave God my yes with doing full-time, hey, Kimberly, full-time ministry, full-time entrepreneurship. And, like, I remember giving God that yes, and, like, maybe like a year had passed. And I'm just like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I thought that when I gave you a yes, that it was going to be all good, that I was going to go from 0 to 100. That season was hell. It was hell on earth. I'm not even going to lie. I'm like, I ain't signed up for this. If I would have known, I would have never did it. And I was mad at God because I'm like, not only, it's like you burned every bridge that I can't go. And, I done turned down the program now. So it's like, I got to wait until it's like, it was nowhere for me to go. It was nowhere for me to run. I'm trying to get jobs. I'm not getting jobs. I had so many different emails. Oh, thank you, but we've chosen to go with somebody else. Oh, I would have an interview. And guess what? I would not hear back. Oh, we went with somebody else. So I'm looking at God like, you withholding from me. Like, you're not letting me get something that I need. I'm struggling. And it's like, you don't care. I chose this because of you. And look at my life, like, look at my struggle, like, I'm suffering. Everybody else is skating around, getting their blessings, they getting this, they getting that. And look at me. I genuinely chose you. And I'm looking at the people in the church because all they preached was Jesus, choosing Jesus's unicorns and rainbows. And I'm looking at them crazy as hell. Excuse my language. Because I'm like, y'all made it seem like I've been tithing here. I've been doing all of this. You made it seem like my life would get better. But now I'm struggling. I'm suffering. I asked you for help on a bill. Not all of them, but just one bill. And y'all turned me away. But I've been helping this church. So now I'm looking at them like, did you just tell me what you felt I needed to hear just to get my money? The same way that some of y'all feel that there are leaders that you've been following or have followed that did you that same way. You gave money that you really didn't have. Okay. Maybe that's a little bit too real for somebody. You sowed seeds that you really couldn't afford to sow. And you look at your life and you don't see the fullness of what they say God spoke. It'll make anybody hesitant. I don't want to sow. I don't want to do any of that. Like, I just know doing that got me here. I ain't lying. Like, that's how you be feeling. That's not the reality of what it is, but that is literally how you feel. Okay, God, that's one we're gonna go with. That's literally how you feel. Like, I done did all this stuff and I literally have nothing to show for it, and I'm still in this thing literally by myself. It'll make you bitter with everybody. It'll make you put everybody in the same boat. For a while, that was me in that season. I don't want to watch a broadcast. I don't want to hear a prophetic word. I don't want to hear it. Because I trusted this leader over here and they misled me. They ain't tell the truth. They took from me. And I struggled. Okay. But all leaders are not bad. You can't make all pay for what one did or for what two did. I was bitter at first, but then I got better. Whew. I was bitter at first, but then I got better. I ain't lying to y'all. I'm going to say it again. I was bitter at first, but then I got better. I really did. But in that season, I'm looking at God like I didn't sign up for this. Like, and then one day, after about a year being in that season and being what I felt to be stuck, I wasn't stuck. I was just boxed in to where I could not run. I gave God a yes, and He took advantage of that yes. He said, "Oh, you gave me a yes. I don't get yeses often. I don't get wholehearted yeses often. So now that you've given me a yes, let let me box you in so you can't run." Think about that. Not many people give God a wholehearted yes. Some people are saying yes to the blessing, but they're not really saying yes to God's heart. So when God hears one of His kids say yes, yes, Daddy, like He like, oh, oh, I gotta deliver. I had to deliver now. And it's like from that moment, He starts to dedicate Himself to like blessing us. He starts to dedicate Himself for meeting us. Come on, somebody. For meeting us exactly where we are. To say yes to Him is to say yes to His plan. But there's one day I sat there and I'm like, man, this season, why am I struggling so much in this season? Like I started to like think about what because it's like the feeling felt familiar. I'm like, why does this feel familiar what I'm going through? And then it's like I sat and I thought about it. I'm like, this remind me of when I was homeless. Because when I was homeless, I also felt helpless. This is exactly what it reminded me of. The only thing is I got a roof over my head now. But I still feel like that season. This feel exactly like that. God told me. He said, I boxed you in and created a similar scenario to give you a different outcome because different outcomes produce in you, come on, the strength and the courage to believe. God told me that. He said, I blocked you in and I created something that was similar to that experience because I needed to give you a different experience. Because if I didn't, you would go throughout your life forever traumatized and forever running. I did it to bless you. That entire season, I was afraid of being homeless. I was afraid of going through it and my life getting worse, going right back to where it was. And when it was all said and done, God gave me a different outcome, an outcome where I didn't look at Him and see failure. In the end, like He gave me an outcome where I did not look at Him and see failure. I came out of that season of homelessness and I felt like God had failed me. I felt like He had failed me. Even though I came out, I didn't look at Him and see, oh, God is faithful. Like I looked at God and I felt like he failed me. But when I came out of that wilderness, I didn't look at that and see failure. I looked and I said, God, you did that. You provided. You came through. Whoo. This season for a lot of us in different ways is about just that. God giving you a different outcome. This season for a lot of people is about God giving you a different outcome. This has blessed you. Can you tell God thank you? I'm gonna come back on later on tonight too. If you have not yet followed me, you can follow me now here on TikTok. You can also follow me on Favorited, Red Note, and you can follow me on YouTube. Thoughts by T is the name. Today's seed number is the number 30, whether that is 30 cents, whether that is $30, whether you are sowing in increments of 30. There is one person that needs to sow $130. Today's seed number is 30. That is whether you're sowing that in cent form, dollar form, multiples of it, and there is one person that needs to sow $130. What I will say is that thank you so very much. I want you to label this your rest and recovery. I want you to label this. Come on, little gift. I want you to label this your rest and recover seed. There are 15 people watching me right now that need to sow. The devil may try to tempt some of y'all to be like, I'm not sowing. The last time I sowed, nothing happened. The last time, the last ministry, he may try to tempt some of you guys to do that. But if you're always running from God, you will never ever see what God has to offer. And if you're always running from God, you will never get to have that opportunity where God shows you that not every minister is the same, not every leader is the same, not every ministry is the same. So that's it. That's all I got to say about that. Because that is a real thing that not a lot of leaders talk about. There are so many ministries that are not thriving because people will not sow into them. People will come, people will get the word, they will get fed very well, and they will not sow back into what sows into who's sowing into them. And not only that, some people give the bare minimum because all they think about is themselves. But ministers have it the worst out of everybody. Not only does the enemy fight ministers from doing or fulfilling the work of God in their own life, but he also attacks them 10 times just as much. And so that is it. That is all I got to say. If you are one of the 15, just once you sow, just come and say seed sown. Whether you sow in that 30 in cent form, whether you sowing it in dollar form, whether you're sowing it in multiples, meaning you may say, I'm gonna sow 60. But there is one person that needs to sow $130. If you are that person, can you just give me an emoji on the screen? There is one person that needs to sow 130. If you are that person, just give me an emoji on the screen. That's it though. Rest and recover. Rest and recover. That's it. Rest and recover. Moderators, do we have a number yet? Do we have a number yet? I'm going to say it again. Rest and recover. Again, you can sow it in cent form, whether you sow $1.30, whether you sow $30, whether you sow $10, and whatever you feel led to sow. That is what you sow. The number is 0 over here too. There are at least 15 people that need to sow. Again, you may not sow the $30. There is one that needs to sow $130. If you're sowing that $130, I need you to just give me Give me a emoji on the screen. My Yanni, the Lord says to tell you just believe. God says to tell you just believe. Just believe. Put some faith behind the things that you are doing. And don't let discouragement put you in a position where you feel so overwhelmed that you feel like, what is even the point of me doing this? God says to tell you that. Put some faith behind it. I'm going to say it again. Put some faith behind it. And do not let the enemy get you into such a place where you start to feel like, what is even the point of me trying? This time is not like the last time. I'm going to say it again. This time is not like the last time. There are 14 more people that need to sow. YouTube, the ways to sow, you can sow via paypal.me/thoughtsbyt. Let me just put them here. I usually put it in the comments. Um, oh, Lord. Moderators, do we have a number? What am I missing? So that's 2 so far, 3 so far. Those are the ways to sow, YouTube. That's 12 more people that need to sow seed into this word. This is not about paying for a prophecy. It ain't about any of that. This is just the word has been given, and it's giving people the opportunity to put seed in the ground. And I'm gonna say it because God is saying to say this. Would you go to your job and for free? Would you go to work for free? And that goes even for entrepreneurs. It's not just ministry, it's entrepreneurs. People expect a lot for so little. And that is not to make anybody so. That's just the reality of it. If you're gleaning from something, why do you not feed what feeds you? That's it. Has anyone sown that one seed, moderators? Has anyone sown that one seed? Ebony, it's already all right. I don't know why I'm here to tell you that. It's already all right, Ebony. God says to tell you that it is already all right. Ebony Howard. He says to tell you that again. It is already all right. I'm going to say it again. It is already all right. Moderators, just keep posting. I'm trying to get off of here, but the Holy Spirit has me lingering. God isn't letting me. Pursue what God has told you, Joy. Leap in that direction. There are still people that need to sow. I'm not going to harp on that. If you sow, whether you sow, it's between you and God. The moderators will continue to post how people can sow, but that's your own faith walk. It don't have anything to do with me. I don't believe in condemning people to sow. I don't believe that I should have to entice people to sow. I believe that even now, some of y'all are starting to feel that conviction right here. That is the Holy Spirit. Whether or not you pay attention to that, that is between you and God. God doesn't do halfway. The great I am. He is a God that if he's going to do something, he is going to bring you out fully. God says to tell you this. He is not a God that does halfway. If he brings you out of something, he is a God that does it fully. God doesn't do half done. Ooh, I don't know what that means. I see the word business. God doesn't do half done. I'm going to say that again. He does not do half done. I don't know if you've been feeling like that. Like, God, you did a piece of it. You ain't done all of it, though. He don't do half done. If he's going to do it, he is going to do it fully. A lot of you feeling like things are half done is because you've been doing things in your own strength and calling them God. But the Lord says what has actually happened is you've gotten to the end of your rope where there's nothing that you can do. It's nothing else that you can do. It's literally nothing that you can do. And it makes you literally feel like, man, God, you didn't do it all the way. It's not that God did it at all. It was you that time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is God helping you to understand what it is. There is something about the game plan for it that is not done. It's like a lack of direction, a lack of clarity on what direction. God is showing me you where it's literally like the great I am, where it's almost like you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. It's like almost anxious energy, where it's like I'm going in this direction, I'm going in that direction, I'm going in that direction, I'm going in this direction, and it's so many different things. It's pause, pause so that you can catch your bearing, get your emotions out of it, and stop rushing against a time clock. It's like you set up a deadline for yourself, and that is putting unnecessary pressure that God didn't even put on you. You're missing God because of that. So take the time to chill. I'm gonna say it again. Take the time to chill. All right, YouTube, I'm letting y'all go now. Thank y'all though. Take time to chill.